All right, so in chapter 1, the first thing we're going to talk about is measurements. So let's do that. So we can imagine that there are a lot of things that we're going to measure in science, and especially in the medical field, right? They're everywhere, from basic measurements to like body temperature or blood pressure or height, weight. Any of those things are pretty simple measurements that we do on humans to get us some basic information about the human. If we're tracking, if we're trying to determine if infection or something, we might be looking for body temperature. If we're trying to determine heart issues, blood pressure, things like that, right? So we've got all these different fairly simple measurements with fairly simple instruments to get information about humans, right? So in science, it's really important to understand the instrument you're using. How accurate is it? How precise is it? And that's really kind of what we're going to talk about for some of this chapter. So, for example, if we want to discuss a bit more complex measurement, we might talk about BMD, bone mineral density. So bone mineral density is used to determine if a human has osteoporosis or is susceptible to osteoporosis or is moving in that direction, right? So osteoporosis is a disease that tends to hit older humans, people over the age of 50, especially women, where bones become less dense and much more brittle, which is obviously a concern as you get older. We don't want you falling and breaking an arm, hip, or any of those things, because then life becomes much less enjoyable. And you got to go through a lot of times surgery or something like that to take care of that. So if we can diagnose osteoporosis early, there are ways we can minimize loss of bone. Okay, so BMD is a measurement of how dense your bone is. And for the average human, BMD would be about 1.5 grams per centimeter cubed. Grams per centimeter cubed, that's a mass over a volume, so that's a density. And centimeter cubed is a volume. That's a centimeter by a centimeter by a centimeter, so length, width, height. A centimeter cubed is also a milliliter. So 1 cc, centimeter cubed, or cubic centimeter, is equal to 1 milliliter. So when we're talking 1.5 grams per centimeter cubed, that's basically saying that if we take a milliliter of bone, it should have a mass of 1.5 centimeters on average for a healthy human. Okay, and that's bone mineral density, BMD. We use this instrument called DEXA, or a dual energy X-ray absorptiometer, to measure your bone density. And from that, we take your bone density and we give it a T-score. And a T-score is a statistical value. And that value tells you how far or how close you are to average BMD. So you can see on the right here, we've got a chart that shows what your T-score would be and how it compares to the average. So average, if your T-score is 0, that means your bone BMD is average. Okay, if your T-score is above that, if it's some positive value, that means your BMD is higher than 1.5. And if it's less than that, if it's less than 0, if it's in the negatives, that means your bone BMD is less than the average. And if it's significantly less than the average, your T-score could be down in the -2, -3 range, and you're either in osteopenia, which is pre-osteoporosis, or in the osteoporosis region, right? So What we're looking for taking this measurement is how healthy your bones are. And if we want to go one step further, why won't my slides advance? Do I have to stop this? Oh, I just had to exit draw. Okay. If we want to go one step further and look at what the bone density looks like for osteoporosis, on the left here we can see high bone density, healthy density. Your bones are still very porous, but you can see there's much more bone mass there, where low bone density, you get a lot more pores. Those pores get a lot bigger, and the bones just aren't as strong. When that happens, we start seeing it definitely in the back, where the back starts to arch because the vertebrae are starting to crumble a bit. This is just an example of another measurement that we do to check on human health.